Hey everybody, today is our reteaching for our problem solving lesson for this topic, lesson 7-7. Our objective, our goal for today is to break down multi-step problems to solve. So we are really going to be taking a look at hidden questions and working to solve those so we can reach our final answer. So here's the word problem we're going to be working with throughout this video. Marcy was in a 3-day walk. Her friend Gail said she would give the charity $1.50 for each mile Marcy walked. The first day, Marcy walked 26.42 miles. The second day, Marcy walked 32.37 miles. The third day, Marcy walked 28.93 miles. How much money did Gail give? Okay, so we are missing kind of one step or one piece of information here that we need to figure out before we can figure out our end question, how much money Gail gave. So I want you to think about the things we know from this problem, the information they did give us, and we also need to figure out what we need to find. That's going to help us figure out that step that goes in the middle. So we know that that each day she walked a different length, I guess. And so we know each of these lengths. The first day she walked the 26.42 miles. We know that. We know that the second day she walked 32.37 miles. And we know that the third day she walked 28.93. And the last piece of information that we know is how much money Gail gives her per mile. We know that per mile, Gail is going to give Marcy $1.50. So this is the information that we're working with here. This is the stuff we have to kind of use to solve this final problem. The find column over on the left is just the question we're trying to answer. So in this case, how much money did Gail give? That's going to be our find. That's what we're looking for. But before we can find out how much money Gail gave Marcy, or the charity, I guess, for Marcy's walk, we need to answer a question. We're missing a question here. Based on this information, we can't just answer that question right away. We need to answer a different question first. So let's take a look at what that question is. Before we can answer the question of how much did Gail give total, we need to figure out how far she walked, how many miles Marcy walked, because Gail is giving Marcy $1.50, but that's per mile. It's not for the whole walk. It's just per mile. So we need to figure out how many total miles Marcy walked. Okay, when I say total miles, and when you see the words in all, you know that this is going to be an addition problem. So let's go ahead and add these three numbers to figure out the total distance that Marcy walked. So we have 2 plus 7 plus 3 is going to give us 12. We're going to carry our 1 over. We've got 17. Carry 1 again. We've got 17 again. Carry 1 again. 3 plus 3 plus 2 is going to give us 8. And then think all the way back to when we were adding decimals. We're just going to carry this decimal point straight down into our answer. So the answer to our hidden question is going to be 87.72 miles. That's how much Marcy walked over all 3 days, her total distance that she walked. Now we are able to solve the question of how much money Gail gave Marcy, or gave the charity based on Marcy's walking. So let's take a look at that, the next step in this problem, so we can find our final answer. So we have the two vital pieces of information that we need, the total miles she walked and how much money she got per mile, so we can answer the question of how much did Gail give. We're going to go ahead and multiply these because for each mile, she's giving her $1.50. So that means for the first mile, she gives her $1.50. For 2 miles, she gives her $3. For 3 miles, she gives her $4.50, and so on and so forth. So we're going to multiply these two numbers to figure out how much she would have gotten for 87 72/100ths of a mile. So I'm going to go ahead and write this problem out. Remember, when you're multiplying decimals, your decimal points do not need to be lined up. to make this multiplication problem a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of ignore that 0 on the end. It's not going to change the value of my number. 1 in 50 hundredths is the same as 1 in 5 tenths. That's kind of a fluff 0 there. It's just going to give me one less number that I have to multiply out. So remember, when you're multiplying decimals, you just multiply like you normally would, as if these two numbers were whole numbers and didn't have any decimals at all. Then once you have your product, that's when you go back and look at your decimal point and figure out where you need to place it in your product. So we're just going to begin multiplying this just as you normally would with two whole numbers. So we're going to start with the 5 times the 2. It's going to be 10, carry your 1. 7 times 5 is 35. Add that 1 up there, you get 36. 7 times 5 is still 35, plus that 3 is going to give me 38. Carry my 3 over. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 3 is going to get me 43. So now we're moving over one place value. So we're going to add our 0, the hero there, and we're going to multiply, just like we did last time, regularly. So 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 7 is still 7. And 1 times 8 is 8. So now we have our two partial products, and we need to go ahead and add these together, and then we'll look at our decimal points. So 0 plus 0, 6 plus 2, 8 plus 7, carry my 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 7 is 11. And then 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 8 is 13. So now we're really going to take a look into our decimal point and where it needs to go in our answer. And to start figuring out where we need to put the decimal point, we're going to look at the number of decimal places in our two factors, in the numbers we multiplied together. So in this top number, we have 2 decimal places, and in the bottom number, we have 3. So remember, our product that we have right here was as if we were multiplying two whole numbers instead of 2 decimals. So this right here, this number is going to have our decimal at the very end. Then we need to move it over 3 places because we had 3 decimal places in our problem. So we're going to move it over to the left 1, 2, 3 times. So our final answer here with our decimal put in and all of that fancy stuff is going to be 131 and 580 thousandths. Now remember, we're finding a money amount. We're finding an amount of money that Gail paid. So we know that in, at least in American dollars, I don't know about other countries, but we just have 2 decimal places in our money system. So our actual answer, because this isn't very reasonable based on how we deal with money, is going to be $131.58. So this is the answer to our final question. We had the hidden question that wasn't asked, but we knew we had to figure out. And then we had our final question that was asked, that we had to take a couple of steps to figure out before we could solve this question. And you could always go back and check yourself and double check your work. So maybe if we found an estimate for this, we might want to round 87 to 90 and then multiply it by 2, because $1.50 would round up to $2, and this estimate would get us about $180. So this is a fairly close estimate. Notice that we rounded both of these numbers up, so it's going to be an overestimate, and that tells us that we are probably most likely right with our final product here.